Liz,
Recording
if you
in
could get
progress.
slides. All right, good evening, everybody. It is May 29th, 2024, and this is a public meeting of the Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing, full committee meeting. And next slide. All right, let's start with introductions, and I will hand it over to full committee co-chair Ashley to get us started.
Yeah, thanks, Dory. Yep, Ashley Schofield. I like to use she, her pronouns. And just a reminder, I've been on PCCEP since August of 2022. Kip, how about you? Oh, we can't hear you, or I can't hear you.
Can't hear you, but you're not muted, Kip.
Oh, you're not muted. Okay, I'll go over to maybe Leslie if you're available.
Hi, everyone. I'm Leslie Martinez. I'm also a PCCEP member since August 2022, and my pronouns are she, her. I will hand it off to Tia.
You're muted.
Thank you. My name is Tia Palafox, and I've been a member since 2021. I am currently the co-chair of the Community Engagement Subcommittee. Is Kip, are you available now?
Well, now you're muted, Kip. It shows the mute, so try again. No.
Oh. Okay. Huh.
Byron, are you here?
There's Nathan. I see Nathan too.
Let's go to Byron.
Hello, everybody. Byron Vaughn, PCCEP member, co-chair with Kip Silverman on Settlement and Policy Subcommittee. Go ahead, Kip.
Yeah, it looks like his sound is not working. So let's see, we have another person.
Nathan Castle.
Hi, everyone. Nathan Castle, he, him pronouns. I hope you can hear me right now.
Yes.
And we have a couple of our new PCCEP members with us too. I'm going to ask you all to tell us a little more about yourselves later in the meeting, just a little later, but you can briefly introduce yourselves now too. So I see Adam and Devonte here.
Hi, my name's Adam Gregg. I'm a PCCEP member for 6 hours now. Glad to join.
Welcome, Adam. Devonte, would you like to go next?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Devonte Manyweather. I am also a PCCEP member, newly appointed today. So happy to be here. Nice to get acquainted with everyone.
Great. Thank you. Welcome.
Very excited. Okay.
I think I solved my my sound issues. Kip Silverman, I use he, him pronouns along with Byron Vaughn. I am co-chair of the Settlement and Policy Subcommittee. Welcome to our new folks. Hello.
Awesome. Great to see all you PCCEP folks. And now any city people here? Oh, and I see another one of our new PCCEP members just joined too. I see Kyle. Kyle, we're doing quick intros if you want to just quickly say your name and say hi.
Hey everybody, great to meet you. Sorry for the lighting that I have and don't have. I'm one of the newest members, voted in today, or appointed today. I'm really looking forward to working with you guys and getting to know you over time and seeing where our paths can cross. I'm an open book. Feel free to reach out, and I'll make sure that my contact info is in the chat before the meeting is over.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So that's all our PCEP members on the line. And now let's hear intros from any city folks, PPB, DOJ, etc., independent monitor who are with us. And I'll start. I'm Dory Grabinski, PCEP project manager, and just feel free to jump in.
I'll jump in real quick. Hi, everybody. Stephanie Howard. I work in the mayor's office. This is community safety director.
Good evening, folks. Mary Claire Buckley, Portland Police Bureau.
Greetings all, Antoinette Edwards, DOJ Monitor Team, Community Engagement Specialist, and I am so excited to announce that and be with you all today.
Hi, I'm Sarah Ames from the City Attorney's Office. I'm in transit, but I will be on camera later this evening.
Maybe my turn. Hey all, Amanda McMillan, Portland Police, newly appointed Assistant Chief over the Investigations Branch.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll go next. Teresa Alonso Leon, I'm one of the facilitators.
Awesome. And community members, feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. Okay, let's now move to community agreements, I think.
Got about Adelia, but
What's that?
Adelia's online.
Oh, well, they just keep coming, which is amazing. Odelia, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Odelia Zuckerman. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Community Engagement Co-Chair with Tia.
Great. And Ashley, I'll hand it back to you.
All right. Well, thank you. Sure. I'll go ahead and read off the community agreements. As always, listen actively and respectfully, share airtime, be present and open to new information and perspectives, assume positive intent, respect each other, respect the group, speak your own truth, communicate directly, honestly, and respectfully, ask questions to clarify, call out bias, and be okay with ambiguity. And just a side note, Dorian, we don't have to spend time on it, but reading that off, and then, just hearing our new members joining, and I was just thinking about when I first started a couple years ago and how we created this list together, and just curious, maybe in a future meeting soon, we can just maybe revamp these a little just so that they are, encompassing like the new voices we've got in the team, the group.
Yeah, I think that's a really good exercise for the retreats.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for bringing that up. I think that's a great point.
Dory, may I just add, I'm extremely excited to have young people as an elder. Can I just say that? So Kyle and Devontae, can I just really welcome you? It makes old folks feel better when I see young, new energy. So a special welcome. And Manyweather, I think I know your people. But anyway, we'll talk later. So I just want to thank you for your leadership,
Thank
just
you.
being a part of
Thank you,
this. So
Antoinette.
thank you.
So good to have you, Antoinette. Yeah, so quick overview of today's agenda. It's pretty straightforward. We are going to spend some time talking about the PCEP codification process. As some of you know, we created a work group a couple months ago, and we've been meeting regularly and talking, and we have something to present today, and we also have possibly a recommendation that would accompany it to send to the mayor's office to go ahead and codify PCEP. So yeah, it's going to spend a lot of our time on that today. Won't be, maybe we'll usually our go-to process is to read through the document so that we can all hear it and see it, and then kind of have some discussion on any major parts that kind of poke out at people. So that'll probably be our process today for both documents. And then, yeah, we'll open up to public comment because we'll definitely want to hear feedback about what has been heard and said tonight that will help us inform our to make a better recommendation, which is what we always like to do here at PCEP. And then, but first we're going to get into updates. And yeah. And Dory, do you want me to just read off the slides? Sorry.
Yeah, I can cover any of these, or you can, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, I'll cover this one because I was able to attend the status hearing the other week where Judge Simon, the court, was appointed MPS and Associates as and I was gonna say new, but it's the first independent monitor for the settlement. So we're really excited, and as we already know, we have Antoinette Edwards here, who is an associate monitor. And we've seen them peeking in our meeting, so it's really exciting, yes, to finally introduce you as part of this process and part of this part of the community space. So thank you again for your time and being here. Yeah, as the slide says, their appointment was this month, but the work won't begin until July. And my understanding is that they have about 30 days to come up with a plan of how they will start implementing their process. So we look forward to, working with the independent monitor and having them in space. And yeah, working through how we can make it more, just the whole process of updates and, status updates to the public. Just thinking about what that could look like. I know we've heard feedback here in PCCEP space before, so I'm personally looking forward to understanding that and understanding the plan and yeah, how to really be where the focus will be on the engagement with the community. I don't know if Antoinette, if you wanted to speak, a couple words, yeah, that'd be great.
You're muted.
I think.
Just to say, I just really appreciate, and I think I've shared it before publicly and with individuals, the work that you have done. And I'm really looking forward to the collaborative effort. I think you, as I've said before, you have the blueprint. And I just want to join with you in that, because when the settlement's all said and done, I want you to still be here to advise and support. So I'm looking forward to partnering with you all. So if you have all my information, all my digits, you can reach me. I'm transparent. So I look forward to it, and I'll be reaching out to you. So don't dodge my call, because I'll call back. Thank you.
Love it. Any questions about that update before we move on? Tia, did you have something or?
No,
Okay.
sorry.
All right, let's go to the next one.
Sure. I can cover a little bit of this, and then maybe you can chime in, Dory. But as you know, PBB has released their annual report, and it's custom for PCCEP to have a space for either the chief at the time to read out the report and be available for question and answers. So I think, yeah, I think this is a part of, we'd love for anybody in the community to be available to give us, during public comment, we can come back to this about how, what could be our way of introducing or presenting the report, because we've heard in the past the way that we've had these meetings before, it's the readout of the report isn't great, and it isn't engaging. As Dory's as we have on this presentation, just thinking about where that could be. Is it something in July, sometime later in the summer? Dory, I'll let you go. I think you can speak better on this.
Oh no, I think you said that perfectly well. I don't have too much to add there. But I think, yeah, Ashley's point being, community members, if you would like PCCEP to have a space or a meeting dedicated to review of that report based on the feedback we received from you last year, we'd be interested in hearing maybe what you would like to hear a presentation on. I see Dan's question in the chat, which says PCCEP and the public are supposed to give feedback to the PPB in June so they can finalize the report. PCCEP is still soliciting that comment via you can still submit that comment the same way we solicited it last year through our mailing list. The difference I think that Ashley was explaining was the meeting where the review of the format of the report is not scheduled for Zoom or for June, but if there's interest in learning more about the content of the report, learning more about specific areas that are reported out in it, we'd like to hear about what people want to know. I hope that makes sense.
Because I hear it, Dan, I hear what you're saying. And yeah, I think we're still like Roy said, we're still using the channel for input. But we're just curious if the community has any thoughts on how we could have a public meeting. Like, what could the public meeting look like? Could we bring in different people? Could we bring in different questions? So yeah, we can talk about that a little bit later. And then, yeah, Dory, I'll let you take the wheel on this one, if you don't mind.
Sure. This is just an update from something that happened at City Council earlier today, in light of some meetings that PCCEP has scheduled for June. Both of the subcommittee meetings in June will be about the reformation of the PPB Rapid Response Team. And today there was some movement on that issue in City Council, which was the purchase of shields and crowd control munitions for that team. So we just wanted to keep you updated on that and specifically highlight, I guess, this middle portion. Next week's meeting will focus on this and a little bit of the why around why the RRT team is being reformed, and then Kip and Byron have a meeting planned based on some community concern and input they've heard around that topic. Yeah. Any questions on that?
And by meeting next week, do you mean the settlement policy?
Correct.
Okay, great. I'm glad. Thank you so much for putting that on the agenda.
And then Odelia will be leading the meeting on the 12th, which is continuing that conversation
Great.
in a slightly different way. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So happy to hear. Okay, great.
Cool. All right, and our last update, we, as you already know, have 4 new PCCEP members, and 3 of them are here with us. So Devontae, Kyle, and Adam are filling our 3 at-large seats, and Jorge is filling our remaining youth seats. So we are at full membership once again. And if the 3 of you are comfortable, I don't want to put you on the spot. I know you already did this earlier today, but I thought it might be really great if we could hear a little bit more about your backgrounds, what brought you to PCCEP, and you know, help the community and PCCEP members kind of start to get to know you a little bit. Yeah. Anyone wanna jump in?
Yeah, I'll jump in and get it out the way if that's okay. And so everyone, I'm Kyle. To be a little less formal, I'm relatively new to Portland. I moved here last year, and I was attracted to the PCCEP because I am before PCCEP, I'm involved with quite a few different incarceration related areas. Also, quite a few officers, retired officers in the family. So I'm kind of like, my life experience is one that is kind of right there at the intersection of a conversation that our country is waiting to have, that we're kind of behind on having. And I think Portland can be the first city to have that with this opportunity. So I'm here to be aware of the progress that we're making and try to add to it however I can. Feel free to reach out and ask more. And yeah, again, Kyle. See you guys.
Cool.
Thanks,
Um,
Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle. I'll jump in real quick. I unfortunately have to leave in like 15 minutes because I was not prepared for this. But short intro. I have lived in Portland for about 20 years now. I moved here to go to school back in 2004, and I have spent about 10 years in active heroin addiction, which also dealing with mental health issues, lots of interactions with Portland police officers, good and bad from their perspective as well, I'm sure. I spent 6 years in prison, and since my release 3 years ago, I have I have about 8 years clean now. I just finished my first year of law school, and I'm looking forward to participating in any way that I can and learning from this group. Thanks.
Wow. Welcome, Adam. Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Really excited to have you. And Devonte, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Wanted to join from my laptop. So yeah, my name is Devonte Manyweather. I am a Portland native, born and raised. Grew up in Northeast off of Ainsworth. So for me, currently I'm employed with the Oregon Department of Human Services Self-Sufficiency Department. So I'm working in close proximity with some of our most vulnerable Oregonians and Portlanders, on a daily basis. I'm seeing and interacting with the trauma. I'm seeing the struggles. I'm also seeing the desire from many of our Oregonians to have a better life and to elevate themselves. And so I see a lot of the mental health issues as well. And I know in the capacity in which I work with them, what some of the challenges are. And I am also very cognizant of the fact that for law enforcement, oftentimes they're interacting with some of those same traumas and challenges, but oftentimes in a more negative circumstance, which only exacerbates the problem. And so I'm here to kind of share that perspective in which I recognize that yes, law enforcement does need to constantly be evolving and growing, but also that the failures of some of our law enforcement departments is also a failure of on our community and society as a whole, because we're expecting them to fulfill roles, quite frankly, that they just aren't suited to fulfill. This is a direct issue with not having the appropriate resources for individuals that are trying to work through this trauma, that are struggling with mental health and drug and alcohol addiction. So really reframing our thought process and understanding that we need to find a way to connect people to the services and assistance that they need. And I think that that's, a much bigger conversation, but I'm happy to be a part of PCCEP because I understand that that's what the mission here is. And I'm just looking to contribute in any way that I can and hopefully be a part of the resolution. So that's why I'm here. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to meet all of you and to be working with all of you.
Really incredible to hear from all of you. Just the breadth and depth that you all have covered in just those short intros is really incredible. And I think, I can speak for, the whole committee and everybody listening. I think we're all very excited to have you and move forward together. So yeah, and sounding like a broken record probably, but hopefully that's a good thing. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's our last update. And a good update to end on there. So let's get back into it. And Ashley, it's back to you.
To me. Okay.
And next slide.
So yeah, like I mentioned before, a couple months back, we started this conversation about codifying PCCEP. We know at some point the settlement will come to an end and be in compliance. And the work that PCCEP's done to get the city in compliance and be part of that really integral part of connecting community to how they're policed is something PCCEP has been really proud to be part of. So codifying it is just, just seems like the really smart thing to do. And so we've had a work group. We've met a couple times over the last couple months, looked at all the documents that we had available, which included pretty much an actual draft of the code that we will be showing you guys tonight. That was sort of drafted even before my time on PCCEP. And then and thinking that there's all the documents around the PCCEP plan. So we can talk about that. So the code is what's going to go into city code, right? And it's very bland. It's very straight to the point. It's very like this entity needs to exist sort of language. So, and then the plan, which we worked on before, since I've been on PCCEP, is kind of like that more nitty-gritty details of what PCCEP should be doing and our mission. That's where you'll find our mission. So those are sort of the two documents that we were looking at, and the one that we want to approve and move forward with is the code. The plan is sort of good as it is right now. We've talked a little bit about what we could do to look at that, and maybe that's like the second phase. Let's get through codification, and then we can look at the plan with any updates. And then part of what we're submitting with the code is a recommendation, because that's the meat of what PCCEP can do. Our influence is sending a recommendation to the mayor's office, and them currently being required to respond to us in 60 days. So the recommendation part is that just like, telling the mayor, this is why we formed, this is why we think the code is important. Dory's actually drafted a really great draft for us to look at tonight. So I'm excited because I think, again, this is a package we have to sort of send forward, and excited because I think we're doing really well on timing. We do want to take advantage of a mayor that is very supportive of PCCEP and very, into making sure we are supported with great staff and resources and communication, which I've experienced as a member so far. So because things are going to change very drastically after November. We're going to have literally a whole new government, a whole mayor. So getting this process done before November feels attainable, and it feels like we're on the right track. And so that's where we are with timing and being excited about just having a package ready to go. I'll stop there. Anybody have any questions? Any PCCEP members have any current questions about the process so far and what we've done to get here today? I know some. Anybody on that work group too? Any thought and any other thoughts that I missed? All right. Don't see any takers. Checking the chat here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I guess, wanting to move forward, I guess I'd love, should we just read out the code?
Yeah. Do you all think, would you like to start with the code or the recommendation? Code?
I was thinking code, just because that's kind of like the meat of what we want to get through, and it's a simpler document. But that's just my thoughts.
Cool. And really quick, I normally we wouldn't do this, but I wanted to invite being a little chaotic. Jared, would you like to introduce yourself while the new members are still here? And then any other PCCEP members who joined, I know at least Carrie. Jared, if you can hear me, there he is.
Yeah, I can. Sorry I joined late. I know you typically do that at the beginning, and I was 10 minutes behind. My name is Jared Hager. I use he, they pronouns. I'm a lifelong Portlander, but I'm currently living in the Maryland area. I work for the Department of Justice, and I represent the United States in the underlying case. I've been on the case since 2015, so I have some extended knowledge. I do represent the plaintiff in the case. One of the remedies we sought was PCEP. But your mission, as I think others, including Antoinette, spoke to, is much broader than just what we do in the federal court case for police reform. This committee is a remedy that's important to the United States, but it's much broader. It goes beyond the settlement agreement, beyond our case, as a way to improve community police relations. You are a conduit for the community and are designed to interface with both police, city leadership, as well as the community, hearing their perspectives on what good constitutional policing is for your community. I hope to meet you all in person when I'm back in town. I put my email in the chat, and Dory certainly knows how to get a hold of me if necessary. Happy to support you all. Really appreciate your service. It's an important committee. It's got a great platform, and we're very appreciative of all the good support that the city has given to PCEP, and of course your volunteer service. Thank you.
Thanks, Jared. Just wanted to jump on that opportunity. And I think Carrie also joined. Carrie, are you here? Maybe not. I thought I saw it for a second. Oh. Okay, we'll give that a minute. Just another one of our PCEP members. Okay, cool. All right, so let's start with the review of the code language. Again, this is very succinct, and then goes in tandem with some of those other components. And the goal is to get to a place where PCEP feels good about the code and the recommendation, and then we'll be submitting those, or you would vote on them as a committee and then submit them to the mayor and council, and get that moving as soon as possible. Okay, let me share my screen.
Hey, Dory, I just wanted to, Devontae, not to call you out, but I saw you unmuted and then muted, and I just made sure if you had any questions about the process.
No, I was just going to concur with the notion that code sounds like it would be a good place to start, just from my somewhat brief understanding.
Cool. Sounds like a plan. Alrighty, can you all see this?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so as noted at the top, this code was worked on by the city attorney's office, specifically Sarah Ames, who is in this meeting with us. The work group is working under the understanding that this needed to be vetted legal language, so they developed a list of considerations that they would like to see reflected in this code. And this is the product at the moment. Would anyone like to read through this? Would you like me to read through it? How do you want to move forward?
You read and we can follow.
Okay. All right. There shall be established a Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing, committee or PCEP, made up of volunteer community members to engage with Portland's diverse communities on important public safety issues related to constitutional policing, use of force, interactions with people experiencing behavioral health crises, and racial justice, pursuant to a PCEP plan developed in consultation with the committee and community members and adopted by the City Council. The committee shall solicit and exchange information between the community and the City of Portland leaders and public safety agencies, including the Portland Police Bureau, convening and amplifying the voices of diverse communities, increase collaboration between Portland's diverse communities and city public safety agencies to improve community safety, promote transparency, accountability, and equity in public safety and policing practices in the city, bring forward community-based recommendations to improve public safety and policing policies and practices, increase community safety and trust, and to decrease incidents of use of force, and advise the chief of police and the mayor on strategies to improve community engagement around public safety. The chief of police and the mayor shall respond to formal recommendations from PCEP within 60 calendar days of receipt. The committee shall be made up of 13 members who represent a reasonably broad spectrum of the community. Committee members shall not have an actual or perceived conflict of interest with the city of Portland and shall live, work, attend school, or worship regularly within the city. Members shall be appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council to 2-year terms with the option of 1-year terms for youth members as so provided in committee bylaws. Members shall be eligible for reappointment for up to 8 years of service. As an advisory body to the chief of police and to the mayor, the committee shall not be a governing body subject to Oregon Public Meetings Law. In keeping with the committee's community engagement charge, the committee shall follow the provisions of that law to the extent the committee determines appropriate and so provides in its bylaws. That's it.
Great.
Initial thoughts, things people want to highlight.
I just want to say, I think this just, this draft was created a couple years ago, I think by former PCCEP members. And I just, want to know, it feels like we're already, this is what PCCEP's doing. This is like the heart of what we do. And, it feels like it's on the right track. And I think where we want to talk more about details and like structure, that would be in the plan. So just to also remind folks that like, this is really to the point, like for the code, to be put into the charter or into the city code. And then the plan would be like where we could add more of the community driven sort of solutions and such. My initial thoughts. Thanks.
I will just add, there are a couple of additions that this work group that you were a part of requested, which were the expansion of PCCEP to be considering public safety issues, not just police, acknowledging that that's kind of how your work already works. Codifying the 60-day response time that was not previously mentioned. And I feel like there was something else, but I can't remember it right now. Yeah. Odelia?
Yeah, I was just wondering if, I don't know if Sarah, if you're here, but if anyone could clarify, like when we talk about membership, what the perceived issue with the city of Portland or like that language might entail. Yeah.
Anyone want to speak to that? Stephanie or Sarah could probably answer that. I think conflict of interest is actually a pretty well-defined thing in this case.
Hi, Odelia, and all. This is Sarah Ames, and I'm sorry, I'm just walking to my home now. Got off TriMet. The question about the conflict of interest, usually in the context of these things, that means you can't be an employee. You have a financial interest. There are state ethics laws about that. The conflict of interest would merely be that, not anything broader. So I hope that helps explain it. Kind of in keeping with state ethics laws.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what I was thinking, but I wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Yep.
Yeah, can you scroll up to the top? Thank you. I believe we had some conversation in the working group about expanding the language around important public safety issues related to constitutional policing, use of force, interactions with people experiencing behavioral health crises, and racial justice, which is, by the way, I think kind of an awkward terminology, but I think trying to remember, I don't have my notes in front of me. I'm working on my laptop. I apologize, but I think we wanted to make it not limited to, but more inclusive of all important public safety issues related to constitutional policing, but across all of the different communities that interact with the police and other public safety bureaus. So
I think you're right, Kip. We talked about adding LGBTQI plus and or a more generic term, such as underrepresented communities or something along those lines.
yeah, so that's the only thing I wanted to call out, is that that language still needs to be workshopped a little bit to be broader, more inclusive, and not, I don't, wrong terminology, but not as narrow.
Ashley, your hand's still up. Did you have something else?
Well, not on that, not on that, on that certain line, on that particular line. So I don't know if we want to move on, but I had another question to ask the group that's further down about just I was reading through some of my notes from just previous meetings, and the is it where we report to, advise the chief of police and the mayor on strategies to improve community engagement around public safety. And then the chief of police and mayor shall respond to the formal recommendations. I just, wanted to bring the question up because I know it's come up before, around, do we want that to be do we want the recommendations to go to council and have council, be the ones who respond to us, or we do still just want the mayor? And I want to think about this in terms, because I know COAB, which was sort of the precursor before PCCEP, that was their setup. And
So-
then,
I was just going to jump in to say that specifically, in order to exempt PCCEP from mandatory public meetings laws, this is a reporting structure that helps to preserve that flexibility for them. If you report to a governing body, then you're going to be mandatory subject of public meetings laws. And I think that was something that we were, is really important to allow PCCEP certainly to follow them to the extent possible, but also to be able to have work groups that can get us to points like this so that we can have productive public meetings. So I think that's one piece around that.
Yeah, thank you so much for that reminder. Yep, or that.
Yeah, and I think we also talked about language to your point, Ashley, to be, we're not precluded from asking to present to city council, but we wouldn't be reporting to them. But I can't recall if we wanted to add language saying that we want to be able to have time to discuss the work that we're doing with city council to inform them on it.
Yeah. And I know it's kind of like, I'm just doing like a little devil's advocate and just like a reminder of like, these conversations we've had about what's important to us. And I just would love to also get community input, because, once this gets codified, it gets harder to change it. And I think we're all walking into sort of a grand experiment with the new government and like the balance of powers and how that'll look. So just wanted to sort of bring it up again that, do we want that open public law, or to not be, with open public laws, meeting laws, which again, I agree, like we can have work groups, we can have conversations, we can get stuff done, which is really important to a volunteer advocacy group who all have multiple full-time jobs and stuff to get extra work done outside these meeting spaces. But so that's just my so I'm just throwing like a little wrench in, Dory, for fun to remind us of that part.
Yeah, PCCEP, is that something you all would like to discuss right now? That would be a pretty substantial change. Leslie?
Yeah, I don't have like a firm answer, I guess, because I like the idea of putting our recommendation in front of the person that could most impact it. If like we open it up to city council, we could potentially make a recommendation specifically to a person that the issue would be relevant to or could take on the issue or something like that. I don't know if that would be the benefit of opening it up to all of city council, but then it subjects us to public meeting law, so there's that. And if we keep it as is, yeah, I guess the only thing that I would contribute is what would make us more effective, and what would make it so that our recommendations are more actionable. So yeah, that's kind of where I'll leave it. But
yeah, I think the only other perspective I haven't heard that you might want to consider is if that is an attainable goal, especially given the timeline that you have identified as being very important to this process. That is something that strikes me as potentially being an issue, but I don't know.
I think Kip has put a comment in the chat that makes sense to me. It just says that keeping the current reporting structure doesn't prevent us from presenting to council or asking them to consider / champion things. If that's, yeah, I guess, yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah, and we've always had that power too. And if I understand it correctly, the new charter, the mayor still either is the commissioner or can appoint the commissioner. So in a sense, they would still be the person that we want to.
The police commissioner, yeah.
Police commissioner, thank you. Yeah. Police commissioner, yeah. So like they're still the people that would be influential in that bureau or whatever.
Yeah, I've heard mixed things about that. Does anyone in the meeting know if that is accurate?
Yeah.
The new, I mean, I would just say the new council arrangement separates the executive function of running the agencies and including the police bureau from the policy and legislative function of setting citywide policies, passing code, establishing the ground rules for the operations of the committee. So it's kind of it's a separation of powers in some way. The mayor is still the head of the executive agency, although a city manager, or in this case called the city administrator, will be running the agencies ultimately responsible. But I would note that the mayor remains responsible for hiring the police chief. And so that is one area where there is more direct responsibility for the mayor than with confirmation by the council. But it's policing is one area that they really wanted to have an elected leader in charge of. And so it's not just with the city administration. So for what it's worth, I think that I expect that the council will be very receptive to hearing from the PCCEP it's kind of more grassroots, 3 people from each of 4 council districts. But I think that affecting the policy, the direct policies and practices, procedures in the public safety arena, this remains an appropriate function for PCCEP.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Sarah. That's actually helpful. Again, definitely just playing a little devil's advocate to make sure this is the direction we want to go on. You know, I see Dan's comment in there about, you know, being on the city council agenda. That could be maybe a change that won't be so impactful. And also thinking about, you know, we need the mayor's approval, we need them to champion it, but we ultimately need council to approve it. And I think all the councilors, commissioners currently are running for mayor, so they might have an incentive. Not all of them, most of them, I guess. Which, you know, that's politics. We don't really talk about that, but just thinking, you know, what would they pass this year that we want to get done this year? We can totally keep it as is. I mean, I think there's definitely, we've talked about the benefit of not being subject to open meetings law, which we've talked about a lot in the space. And then ultimately, sounds like, yeah, the person that we do want to talk to would be the mayor and the police chief. I guess I'm just, you know, trying to think about like, and this is the unknown that we're just not sure of as a city, like where does the council's influence? Yeah, they're the legislative side, they're the policy side, but so maybe, you know, maybe I'm just asking the wrong question. Maybe I'm not asking a great question because it's the separation powers are still going to make it the mayor's the one who would doing the appointing. Stay simple and nimble.
So
okay, well, yeah, let's just move.
I think spend some discussion on that point. PCCEP, and I know people are maybe coming at this. We have some absolutely brand new people in the meeting, but PCCEP, are we feeling like the reporting structure as is something you would like to keep after that discussion, or would you like to consider it further? And just as we're moving through the document.
Is that a hand to talk, Kip, or a hand to say yay?
Yeah, no, hand to talk. So a question for Sarah, because I think we discussed this in the last working group that the codification part on making sure that PCCEP still exists and still has the ability to create recommendations that need to be considered and so on and so forth. Do we need to be, to Dan's point is where I'm getting to, do we need to be prescriptive on saying that we in our codification, we want, as a committee, we want to be able to request an audience and get on the agenda of a city council meeting to present a recommendation or something? Is that required? To Dan's point, saying somebody could say that's not in the code, so no, you don't get to do that. And I just want to add one more point to our new folks that most of our meetings are not quite this exciting. So anyway, I'm sorry.
That's a joke.
It's anyway, sorry.
Many of your meetings are far more exciting.
Yes.
I would have to look into whether the council would. I am not aware of any place where the council has mandated that future council members put something on their agenda. That would seem a very odd thing for a governing body to do. And I don't know that that's something that would be required of a brand new city council that's just trying to get their legs under them right away. So I would have to do more research on that if that was something that PCCEP wanted to look into. I do note that this is, you know, it very specifically, as the current PCCEP plan does, talks about advising the chief of police and the mayor and making recommendations to the chief of police and the mayor. And when you all said, we'd like this to be broader and talk about community safety, as a whole in public safety, other areas of public safety in the city. There is a community safety service area under the new structure of government that they're testing out come July, and which will be in full effect in January. But ultimately that still goes up into, into the city administrator and the mayor. So it didn't seem like it was necessary to call that out specifically. So it is interesting, and I just, there's nothing right now that requires the mayor to bring forward anything that you propose for the council agenda. We have a mayor who is, interested in your recommendations and has, taken them into account. But so I just don't know how that would fit with the structure of city code and the council's granting of authority to agencies to set their agendas, or so I would have to look into that further. That's a long answer to a short question.
Carrie?
Thank you. I just wanted to register that I prefer to keep us reporting to the mayor's office and the code in that way, for the sake of during this turbulent time, a better chance of getting more of the PCEP goals done. My personal feeling, that would be a better successful route.
Thanks for voicing that, Carrie. I think, Odelia?
Yeah, sorry, one last thing. I wanted to highlight, I think Tia said something in the chat, and then Dan did about like also adding something about engaging the community in the code. So what do people think about that? Or like community input? I don't know. I can't find the message now.
Yeah, I think it's, bring forward community-based recommendations to public safety and policing policies and practices. And then I think it gets, and that's what I'm saying, like, I think in the plan is where it gets, more detailed about how that would look or what that looks like, which is regular meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah, that one we might want to think about, like, code is, and I'm sure that, I'll completely, this is totally wrong, but like code is sort of like law, right? So, or maybe it, yeah, but it's like, I think if we were to put something about community engagement and what that looks like and how it would be done, a reason for not doing that is if it doesn't look exactly like that or turn out quite that way, PCEP would be really, operating, totally out of code, right? And so I think there's a lot of that stuff in the PCEP plan, which is just far more flexible. But so long as you feel that this substantially refers to that and covers the fact that you are a community group engaging with the community in some way, I think as you should feel covered in that way, but you wouldn't want it to like govern what that is. Does that make sense? That's my sense of it.
Yeah, that's my sense of it too, in terms of what we talked about in the work group of like, yeah, keeping it simple and to the point, and not really but keeping it simple so that we're not, and if we put the details in here, then it might limit us, as some folks have said.
Cool. So I think I've heard from I think we're kind of close to consensus about keeping the reporting structure. Am I right about that? Or do we want to pick that conversation up again, or?
As someone who brought it forward, I'm good with keeping the structure as we have it. Just that way.
Okay. And I should say, I think we'll probably vote on this code and the recommendation in tandem. Unless you want to hold a vote on it tonight, you totally can. And maybe that's something you do want to consider doing. But otherwise, I think it sounds like maybe we've sorted through all of the things that have jumped out to people, and we maybe should jump to the other document.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Maybe we can work on that and then decide what we want to approve tonight. Or the timeline for that.
Sound good to everybody? All right. I am going to share the draft recommendation. And this is, just think of this as like a shell draft. I kind of thought about this last minute today, and I threw this together, so this is not really yeah, this definitely needs PCCEP development. But I thought it might be nice to have something to comment on and think about in tandem with the code in this meeting. So this is what we've got. And this is really based on a lot of conversations we've already had in public PCCEP meetings and the codification work group. Would you like me to read through this one again, or this one as well? All right.
Yes, please.
I'm gonna skip the summary. Okay. Since its inception in 2018, PCCEP has emerged as a vital conduit between the community, law enforcement, and city officials by facilitating dialogue and advocating for meaningful reforms. Through robust community engagement, relationship building, and thoughtful recommendations, PCCEP has contributing to advancing the goals of police reform, transparency, and community-centered policing practices. However, the work of PCCEP transcends the timelines of specific agreements or mandates. The goals we pursue and the aspirations we hold for a safer, more just Portland extend far beyond the parameters of the settlement agreement. As such, it is imperative that PCCEP's role be enshrined in city code, providing the necessary institutional support and permanence to sustain our efforts in years to come. Formalizing PCCEP as a permanent city program will serve several critical purposes. Continuity of mission. Codifying PCCEP ensures that our commitment to community engagement, oversight, and reform remains steadfast, irrespective of changes in administration or external circumstances. This continuity is essential for maintaining trust and momentum in our work. Community trust and participation. A clear future empowers PCCEP to fulfill its duties with greater legitimacy, fostering public confidence in our ability to effect meaningful change. PCCEP knows that inclusive, community-driven processes and decision-making take time. By cementing our role in city code, we signal to residents, stakeholders, and partners that their voices will continue to be heard and valued in shaping the future of policing and public safety in Portland. Long-term impact. The conditions that led to the settlement agreement, and therefore that underlie PCCEP's work, are not transient. They are systemic problems that require sustained attention and action. Codification ensures that PCCEP remains equipped and empowered to address evolving challenges and opportunities to help build safer communities well into the future. As a part of codification, PCCEP urges the current and future city councils to uphold the level of budget and staffing needed to carry out its work. This includes a program manager, coordinator, and community outreach position, as well as sufficient budget to host accessible public meetings and community engagement events. We also urge the future mayor, PPB, and other city officials to uphold and increase their level of engagement with PCCEP. PCCEP would like to recognize the value that our quarterly meetings with Mayor Wheeler have brought to the work. We strongly encourage the next mayor to maintain this dialogue. PCCEP recognizes that the inner workings of the committee will continue to be governed by the PCCEP plan, which outlines our structure, processes, and objectives. We remain committed to adhering to the principles and guidelines outlined in this foundational document, which serves as the roadmap for our activities and decision-making. Looking ahead, PCCEP eagerly anticipates revising the PCCEP plan to ensure it reflects the latest developments and enhancements in our operational framework. With recent milestones such as the appointment of an independent monitor, it is paramount that our guiding document remains current and responsive to evolving circumstances. We welcome the opportunity to engage with stakeholders and community partners in this process, reaffirming our dedication to transparency, inclusivity, and continuous improvement. Mayor Wheeler, we urge you to champion this recommendation and work with City Council to enact the necessary legislation to formalize PCCEP as an integral component of Portland City Code. By taking this step, we can ensure PCCEP's contributions ensure as a cornerstone of community empowerment in our city.
Job.
It's a little wonky. I think we can definitely make it more PCCEP-y, but I think the points are sort of identifying the why, like why should this happen, and then some things that were identified in the work group were the budget, and because that's not something that probably could be codified, right? And the PCCEP plan part and how we expect that to, be updated, and then also continuing that relationship with leadership. So those are kind of the highlights that I considered. Comments, thoughts, things to add, take away?
Yeah, Kip's comment.
No, Kip, that would go in code.
Yeah, I like this
Yeah,
recommendation.
okay, my bad, sorry.
I was gonna say I like the messaging of this recommendation because, like you said, it kind of adds things that we knew, like the budget and the structure, the staff structure. Like we couldn't really add that to the code itself, but I like that we are still voicing that, code's one thing, but we still need the structure and operations to make PCCEP as successful as it has been. But also knowing, that can only go so far with this administration, that only goes far until this administration is no longer, and then it can change. So, I think we all know that already. But yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah, no, I'll second that. I think this is very well structured, and that the way that this committee operates going forward needs to be something that can address the changes the city is going through. So this speaks to that. So the codification part is PCCEP gets to exist within this core structure, but we as a committee currently recognize that future versions of this committee will need to adapt and adjust to the changing landscape of things. And hopefully a whole bunch of new city council people who really, really want to see us do great work.
Absolutely. Carrie?
Would you kindly go down a little further so I can see the next few lines? Oh, no, sorry, up. Literally the next few lines, thank you. As residents, stakeholders, and partners, voices. Yeah, I think in that section about community trust and participation, I feel like another important message would be that PCCEP was a unique entity. To my understanding, it was a pretty powerful model, and it hasn't been a lot of time in the grand scheme of things, and that the trust from the public is also about the commitment to the grander mission, which there's been a lot achieved, but something about the purpose not being temporary, that the feelings that were the genesis of PCCEP were not just in response to something.
Would
I'm not
it,
sure
would that
exactly how to
be
phrase it.
in the long-term impact? I thought I read that. Are you maybe thinking that it isn't enough there, or?
I also feel like the one thing that might be missing, that I feel like might be missing, is that the community has put its faith in the government to help resolve this through PCEP, and it's not resolved. And the long-term impact paragraph says that, but it's almost like a show of faith that the original mission is still very valid. Yeah,
Yeah, so like oh, why is this? Hold on.
something along the lines of I'm just thinking metaphors, like don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, don't cut off the nose, like there are changes coming. But part of the making PCEP more sustainable will show that the dedication to the mission remains the same even throughout all the upcoming transitions.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like an extra respect for the community's faith that they put in PCEP, that the government would show faith in keeping it alive beyond the required amount.
Mm-hmm. I'm just kind of
Yeah, when it's not required, like.
something like that.
Yeah.
Look, we can figure that out. Yeah, that's
I think it's
that's a good point. Mhm.
It feels to me like it would be important in our overall purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that is, it's sort of implied, but it is true that if building trust is the real goal, it really becomes real when that mandate is no longer in place.
Right, like whether or not they trust us to actually help them resolve the issues, and the fact is the issues are still there to be resolved.
Mhm.
If they trust us to be a platform,
Mhm.
even without the mandate, then that's great.
And whether the community can have trust in the work that has been done and the progress that has been made with the settlement. It is symbolic in that way.
Yeah, it's not like suddenly everyone's made redundant or fired or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point.
But with the drag street racing thing, maybe pedal the metal.
I'm not really not gonna put that. We could rewrite the entire thing in maybe a drag racing metaphor. Other thoughts? All right.
Well, Dory, should we talk about a timeline? Because I imagine there's still some like just going, doing some editing or doing sort of our draft process, and then bringing it back to a full committee to vote on it along with the code.
Yeah. So I think the work group discussed, why don't you all talk about what you discussed for the timeline? I don't think you have it nailed down, but you talked about it.
Anybody else want to go?
Yeah,
Or-
I
Go
think we were kind of in agreement that we want to vote on this and present it sooner than later.
Mhm.
So with the next round of upcoming meetings, I don't think there's anything terribly controversial in this that the rest of the committee members might object to. So hopefully maybe it's something we can do in short order in one of the upcoming meetings.
Yeah, Dory, what's in the June meeting? You talked about that being full.
The June is 2 subcommittee meetings, and then the full committee meeting effectively for that month is a community engagement event, which is the Brain Injury Forum. Because I believe it's the 17th or the 19th. The 19th is Juneteenth. So we are working with 3 Wednesdays in June.
Right, okay.
And I believe there are 5 in July, so we could meet more in July. If so desired. Or early in July we could handle this or shift things around. You could also, if I'm not sure if we currently have quorum. If you do, we could consider taking a vote on some of these things and then, doing that copy editing. I think there's probably quorum. But I think it just depends on how you're feeling about where we are with the process. So everything's on the table.
Yeah, Delia.
Yeah, I was just thinking like it might be good to wait just because there's very new members, and I think giving more than like a day to kind of take that in and like make a decision would be helpful. I think like my first time voting, I had no idea what was going on, so just like easing people into that process might be beneficial. That's my thoughts, but I do think it looks great, and like there's not much to really like debate or go back and forth on, but just giving folks the time to like process it.
Sarah, did you have something?
Oh, I would just say that there's always time for public comment before you make any decision. So
yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I vote to, or I would vote to like wait. I think when the work group, we talked about September being like a deadline to have something done. So, I feel like we're in good, we have good timing at the moment. So we have time on our hand, I should say, a little bit. So if something in early July or mid-July, I know, it's just a kind of a travel month for some folks, but if we can make that work, maybe we can aim for that, because we definitely need to get it to the mayor's office, and maybe Dory, we can schedule that quarterly meeting with the mayor so we can bring it to their attention beforehand, kind of do that process, because we'll need him to champion it into council. And like getting that on the agenda, right? I imagine that's going to take a little time. So just giving us some buffers, like August, September, October, some buffer to get it on the council agenda. Does that sound right? Does that timeline sound?
Yeah, I think that's smart. Sarah?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, the other thing that I would note is that the PCCEP plan, as long as we're in the settlement agreement, that has to be passed by the city council and then submitted to the court as an amendment. Not every amendment to the settlement agreement or the PCCEP plan necessarily needs a fairness hearing, but that's the judge's decision whether or not to do that. And that is not quite, the code is the skeleton of what PCCEP has to do, and then the PCCEP plan really puts flesh on the bones. That's a much larger document, and it's probably heavier lift. I know that PCEP in the past in 2021 spent quite a bit of time working on a revision. So I just, if you want to get both of those through the process before the new council takes effect, you might need to start really chewing on the PCEP plan before you get this through the code through council. But I mean, they kind of go together and one supports the other, but you might be on your work group might have to do some work over the summer to keep that side moving, even if you do go to council with the other in.
But Sarah, they could move forward, they could submit the recommendation, the code, like say they did it today, right? And which is not happening, but say that happened today, they could submit that and then be like, at some point we'll update the plan so it's current, like, because it's actually officially out of date, like it references the COCL, for example.
Yeah,
but that's not, codification isn't contingent upon that, is it?
Nope.
Okay.
That's why it just says that you will operate consistent with a PCEP plan that shall be also passed by the council. So it's a separate piece and you don't need to hold up the codification to move forward with that. I was just calling your attention to the fact that that is a bigger document.
Right.
So we need to go to council to get that in place.
Okay, cool. All right, so PCEP checking back in with the timeline. I think the suggestion for July is smart. I think maybe, yeah, good point about July 4th. So maybe the July 10th meeting, we will shift things around that month and have our full committee meeting on July 10th. And plan to adopt these things on that date and then get all of that in the pipeline. PCEP members, could we hear public comment on these documents right now while we have the time as well? Great. So yeah, I'd like to invite members of the public to chime in with any thoughts you have for PCEP about these documents that they're working on. Feel free to raise your hand at this time. And I can pull the documents back up if you'd like.
Looks like Dan has his hand up. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, hello, good evening, everybody. This is Dan Handelman. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the group Portland Cop Watch. You know, I kind of feel like, and I don't even remember how many of you were on committee at this point, but our group came to you before urging that you ask the city to make it so that when you have less than a full contingent of 13 members, that the quorum would slide down so that you can make sure you have quorum even when the seats aren't full. And people didn't seem to like that idea. And this was based on many, many years of our going to meetings like this and observing specifically the PCCEP unable to do its work when there weren't enough members. So I'm bringing the same perspective to you in terms of asking that you put something in the code that you can make direct recommendations to city administrators, and that you can ask the city administrators and the mayor to put your recommendations or your reports on the city council agenda. The Citizen Review Committee did a lot of work on some proposals that they had, and the auditor, who was in charge of independent police review, refused to put it on the city council agenda for them. And you don't want to be in a position like that. You want to be able to put something in the code to empower yourselves that when you want to put something on the council agenda, that somebody will do it for you. And since you seem to be reluctant to be advisory to the full city council, I would really strongly suggest saying that you're advisory to the mayor and the city administrators, and that they have to put something on the council agenda upon your request. I would also add that the new oversight system, according to the charter, the way it's written right now, has the ability to ask the city council to vote on police bureau policies, and then the city council gets to vote on those. So when people are talking about, well, the city council gets to vote on code and laws, there may be also circumstances where they get to vote on policies, and even if that means putting it into a piece of city code. So don't accidentally disempower yourselves by trying to keep the code language too simple. That's my strong request to you. Now, two other quick comments. One is that you use the word collaborate with the police, and I think there's a lot of people in the community that feel very nervous about a group of people that pride themselves on collaborating with police. I think that you should use a different word and different language there, and we brought this up before. And finally, I was very glad to hear one of your new members refer to as the PCCEP instead of the PCCEP. And I still insist that if you said that to somebody who had no idea what letters you were saying, they would not know what you were talking about. Today, one of your new members said that they had been speaking about the Portland Community Energy Fund and said PCEP in the context of a PCCEP item on the council agenda. So it was very confusing what they were talking about. So I really urge you to spell out the letters PCCEP. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Others who are interested in providing some feedback, please raise your hand and we'll call on you. Babs?
Whoops. Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. So you've heard from me and seen me before. I've been following your meetings for several months now. So thank you for all your work. I'm always not certain how to follow Dan because he always is so thorough and detailed and has so many years of experience, and I really admire him. And from what I've seen so far, I would support it. And then there were some caveats. There were some of the things that Dan brought up. There were comments by some others. So I would support what's being put forth today. And I know there's still some meetings to follow. I did put in the chat, however, that sooner rather than later. At one point, someone said September, well, maybe October. No, I would definitely support moving up the process, do what needs to be done this summer, and submit things no later than the first part of September. I have another thing to say, but it's a question, and I don't know if now's the time for that or if it should wait till later. So you let me know, because others might want to speak specifically on what you've proposed tonight. Thanks.
So we do have an open public comment section at 8:15 if it's not directly related to this work right now. Okay.
It's related, but it's shifting from what you're all discussing tonight. So I can wait, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dory, did you have a comment?
I was just gonna say, we can take Bab's question if we don't have anyone else commenting at the moment.
Great. Babs, if you want to come back and ask your question.
Okay, thank you so
free to
much,
do
y'all.
it.
So I have been, besides following PCCEP and PCEF, I have been following the candidates for city council and have attended some forums. There's several forums coming up in June, specifically District 2, North Northeast, and District 4, which is Southwest Northwest. I'm waiting to hear back from one of the candidates, Candace Avalos in District 1, about a forum in that area. So, and I'm not shy, and I like these forums, so I can walk up to these city council candidates and ask them a question directly. And so needing your help in posing the question about what will they see their role as part of the new city council, which we know is going to have some legislative authority. What do they see their role in moving forward what PCCEP is promoting, wants? And if they don't know about PCCEP, well, sorry, person, that would lose my vote right away. But is there a way to phrase a question to get at where they stand and how they see themselves interacting with the 6 deputies, the chief administrator, and yes, the mayor's still going to have the police bureau, but you all know the new mayor's role is going to be weakened. It just ain't going to be the same as it has been all these years. So thank you. Did what I'm asking make sense?
Absolutely, Babs. Thank you. Any thoughts or comments from our committee members?
Yeah, I brought this up before, and actually, I think I brought it up in the work group discussion once about, and I think Dory might be checking on like legalities of this. But yeah, could PCCEP host a forum for the candidates because of our relationship with the mayor? And we could do that in a way where it's like an open panel and it's just asking questions to the candidates. And so I've asked about, that's kind of something I'd love to champion. I think it'd be, and then we could ask those kind of questions, or yeah, like you said, if there's a way we can get to the other forums and ask those kind of questions, I think that'd be a really great tool for PCCEP as we move forward into this new government. Yeah, just to have, because I think honestly also too, I think some of the candidates might not know about PCCEP, as some others do. So yeah, and I think it'd benefit PCCEP's relationship with what we want out of the mayor's office.
Thank you. And if they don't know about it, well, then it's our opportunity to tell them. And actually next Wednesday, the 5th, there is a District 4 candidate forum. And again, that's Southwest and Northwest. And I've been in contact already with 3 of those candidates. So I will practice when I talk to the 3 of them next week. They know me and I've had contact with them. But the idea, Ashley, of having a full-on candidate forum, not all of them are going to show up. You know how many there are. There's approximately 20 in each of the 4 districts. But thank you for taking my comments and thoughts so well. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Babs. I think definitely something to chew on, maybe for a little later in the season. Maybe a PCCEP thing, maybe something for PCCEP to piggyback on that someone else is hosting. I think a lot of ways that PCCEP could think about that. But yeah, definitely understanding any candidates, desire to collaborate with community is front and center. So yeah, thanks for that question. Cool. So PCCEP, do you want to have any discussion about any of the public comment you heard about the codification efforts, as we're kind of marching towards the end of this meeting?
I mean, I definitely want to acknowledge Dan's comment about this. Oh, sorry, I should have raised my hand. But I think that's what brought, the question of like, how influential will the mayor be in the new government? I just feel like it's still in question. And yeah, should we think a little bit more on who our recommendations will report to? Would it be the mayor and the city administrator? Is that possible? Does that change? Does getting a response from the city administrator change anything, like the public meeting laws or anything else? I know it might stall us, but I think we have a good month to think about these little details. And I don't know if Sarah is available to help us answer those questions. I think she mentioned she could help with the question of like adding city council to, that we have to present an agenda, although we kind of talked about how that might not actually work for us. But yeah, just those like legal questions of what can we ask for, the reporting structure specifically. So that would be my thoughts.
Kip, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna mention what Ashley was following up on is I'd really like to get some advice from Sarah on what makes sense as far as codification of being able to get on a city council agenda, or what that could look like. So I think some feedback between now and through June would be great if that's possible, Sarah. Also wanted to, I think we still got a couple of our new folks online. Would love some input from our new folks on their thoughts on being 7 hours into this, the experience, the process, and I know it's a lot to just try to digest quickly, but I'd love some fresh ideas and input. I'm tired of all of us hearing our voices. So it's been a long day. I'm very punchy today, so I apologize.
Thanks, Kip. Sarah?
I would say I'd be happy to do some further research if you ask me questions. I mean, as I did kind of respond to some of the working groups suggestions about the codification, I'd be happy to do more. And I do want to reiterate, I know we've advised you before, as public officials, you may not advocate for or against a candidate or a ballot measure. And I know that you understand that. That's where you get to a little bit of a tricky spot. I believe neighborhood associations, which are likewise community volunteers in a city-sponsored group, they do hold candidate forums. So it must be possible, but I would like to kind of figure out how they walk that balance, what kind of guidelines they give the members to avoid crossing that line and getting into trouble with the state electioneering law, because believe me, you don't want to be found in violation and be, brought before the ethics board or, the Secretary of State finding you. So I would be happy to follow up on any of those. Please relay any legal questions you have as ever through Dory. But I do exist to, in part, my job is to help advise you. So I'd be happy to do so.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. I was thinking maybe the work group, we can follow up with some other questions that we've kind of identified today and get those in an email, and we can, see what we can do. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think this gives us, some time. We have that July date now. We have some time to marinate on these questions that have come up, find some answers, reach some conclusions, and then be prepared for that meeting. Great. Sarah?
You're on mute, Sarah.
I just realized that I told you all that about, not violating state elections law. That does not control what you do in your private time, or if you're not representing yourself as a member of PCCEP, you can do whatever you like. You can go door to door for any candidate or election measure of your choice. Just don't represent yourself as a PCCEP member in doing that. That's where you get into the conflict. So I think that's and can you email them? You can email candidates to educate them on your work as PCCEP members. You can prospective voters telling them to vote for X candidate, right? Using your city email. That would be a red flag. So, I'm happy to help you, questions about where the line is, but it's pretty, it is distinct, but it does not reach into your private life. So I don't want to, deny you any of to kind of go advocate in your own time.
Thanks for that clarification, Sarah. Babs, did you have a question or a comment?
No, I just wanted to thank Sarah for what she just said, and to assure all of you that I always identify myself as a 75-year-old lifelong Portland resident. Even though I am involved in this group or that group or the other group, when I talk to candidates, it's just me, myself, and me. So thank you, Sarah, for letting me know that that's okay. Thank you.
All right, I think we've kind of more or less transitioned into the open public comment portion. So let's just keep it going. If anyone has open public comment, and this can include PCCEP members and of course the general public, please feel free to get in the queue by raising your hand.
Dory, do we want to do the official slide for that?
Yeah, we can pull that up. Go ahead, Barbara.
Oops. So thank you. This was a very interesting meeting, despite people thinking it wasn't. I just would really find it helpful to be able to have a link, maybe even if you can't do it ahead of time, put a link in the chat with the document. Just asking if it's possible.
Yes, we will upload those at the event page for this meeting.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But I mean during the meeting, in the future.
Yeah, my goal is to have them before the meeting. That did not happen for this meeting. I apologize for that. But
Okay,
yeah,
I know you do a ton of work. I'm totally impressed.
No.
Yeah. So thank you
You
all.
wouldn't mute
And it was nice
accidentally.
meeting the new people too.
Thanks, Barbara. We'll go to Ashley and then Dan. Barbara, go ahead.
Barbara just went, so I think we're.
Oh, Dan, go ahead. Oh, Dan, you have your hand up again. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Again, Dan Handelman, he, him, Portland Cop Watch. I'm going to say this first so I can paste it in the chat before I forget. I mentioned previously that we had a newsletter that came out at the end of April. I don't know how many of you saw that we posted it online. People's Police Report number 92 comes out 3 times a year. So there's always an article about the DOJ agreement and the PCCEP in there. A couple of us attended council today, and Mark testified about the new members. And just as a quick note, and this is, again, nothing against the new members, but the last batch of members that were appointed to the Citizen Review Committee were all people who use he, him pronouns, and the people who were appointed to your group today all use he, him pronouns. So, I mean, you still have a better gender balance in this group than the CRC does, but it's just something that we noticed that the council has been approving a lot of people who don't use other pronouns. Okay, so another thing that came up today at City Council was that they talked about the weapons. I think this was mentioned earlier in terms of the crowd control stuff, and I know you're going to be talking about this in your next couple of meetings, but you should really watch the hearing from today. This is very disturbing what some of the City Council members said, especially in response to some public input that came from a member of the community who witnessed or was actually subjected to the police pushing them into an alleyway, and a car almost ran them over. And the mayor's response was to say, well, you should expect to get hurt if you don't obey police directives. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's almost exactly what happened. You should watch it. I'm very concerned about the PPB annual report. Now, mind you that in the past, what's happened is they released the draft report, you had a meeting, the recommendations went to them, and then they take them and say, well, put them in next year's report because it's too late to fix this. That's a very bad process. That's on the Bureau for not taking your recommendations and putting them in right after you make them. But the fact that you've now not have a meeting where the committee can vote on recommendations to put forward means it's even less likely they'll put your recommendations in because you're not going to be discussing them at a meeting. So my thought is, if you're going to have work groups in order to talk about the codification, maybe you can have a little work group that invites the public to it. That's not on a Wednesday, where you talk about the annual report, and then community members can share their concerns with you. You can write an informal thing based from the members who are at that thing. That is not a formal recommendation from PCCEP. These are just some things we think about the annual report. We hope that you will incorporate them this year instead of waiting till next year. So that's just one way to deal with it. I'm a little frustrated by the calendar for June, but it was explained earlier, so now I understand.
Thank you, Dan. Oh,
yes?
okay, keep going.
What? Oh, just the
Go ahead.
last thing I was going to say too is that this morning, you may have read about this already. The Portland Police Bureau shot somebody. They were wounded and not killed. This is the first time since November of 2022 that the person that they shot didn't die. But that's the third Portland Police shooting this year in just 5 months into the year. And we also track at CopWatch statewide law enforcement deadly force. And I think there have only been 10 in the entire state this year, which means that 30% of all the deadly force incidents by law enforcement in the state in the first 5 months is from the Portland Police Bureau. I think that's something to be concerned about. Thank you.
I have a quick response to Dan's comment. The feedback that we received about the meeting on the annual report last year, generally speaking, you're absolutely right. We heard frustration about PPB's response or kind of insufficient response to the feedback that PCCEP did generate and provide. That is accurate. But people also expressed, both PCCEP members and community, that they were less interested in a meeting focused on the format of the report, and potentially more interested in a meeting or discussion about like the content, like how did the year go, like what issues were, because there were some comments submitted about that kind of stuff, and that is not as you know, what is kind of identified in the settlement as the thing that is what kinds of comments are being solicited. It's kind of limited to the format and presentation of the report. And that is what PPB said in response to the comments of that nature. And that is a little bit of the rethinking in how PCCEP wants to engage with the report this year. Just wanted to add that. Did you have another question, Dan?
I forgot to put my hand down, but since you're asking, can you show me where it says format and presentation and not substance? Because I don't recall seeing that language, and I think that's very unusual that you'd be able to make comments on a report but not the substance of it.
I don't think it, yeah, I will, I'm happy to have the conversation with you offline. I think the way that, and maybe Jared or Sarah can speak to this further if Jared is still here, but I think the way that it's written is about PCCEP reviewing a draft of the report prior to those precinct meetings. And that was the feedback that we received last year about the format of the PCCEP meeting. But my understanding is that there's flexibility around doing it a little differently. And that's, I think, the idea of maybe not being limited to that June timeline.
Go
And
ahead, Sarah.
Jared or Sarah would love to hear how I'm wrong.
Oh, I wouldn't say you're wrong. No, I just, with the timeline is that PCCEP shall have it and, have time to review it and make comments before the precinct meetings, which I believe are scheduled for July. But the tight turnaround with them reviewing a draft of the full report that's been laid out and presented doesn't leave sufficient time to really rethink the whole report. It is kind of more of the, why did you do this? This isn't clear, this is confusing, that sort of, kind of more micro comments. The bigger comments, you use too many, and some of them are like, you use too many acronyms and you can fix some of those, but big picture, PCCEP also has a real role in guiding the community engagement policies and practices of the police bureau, and they're supposed to come in on the community engagement plan. You could offer some big picture thoughts about next year, don't do it this way, do it that way, whatever. But I think what Dory was leading to is that sometimes some of the content of the reports from the different units or precincts or on different issues raise some real questions that PCCEP would like to dive further into. And that might be something that PCCEP can follow up on that's springboarded from this annual review, but isn't necessarily a direct comment on it. So that's where kind of more a substantive deep dive could happen. So I think there are lots of different ways you can comment on the report, and you certainly are free to comment on the substance, but the comments on the substance aren't going to make a difference in what the version is that you're seeing the draft of that's going to be, you know, released, publicly printed up and released in July. So it's just yeah, Dan, you've got that exactly. For review and comment before the report is finalized and released to the, so we've got a near final draft. You get to make comments and channeling, you know, feedback from the community in your comments, because that's what PCCEP does, and then providing that to the public, to the police bureau. But as far as, you know, what kinds of changes they can make right away to this year's report, it is going to be more minor changes.
Thank you, Sarah. Jared, did you want to add or comment?
Yeah, I appreciate the chance that, you know, Dan, thanks for putting the language in the chat box. You know, I think our view of it is that PCCEP has a lot of ways in which it can discharge this task of receiving the annual report draft and making comments, reviewing and commenting, and what they choose to do with it. I think our view is that the PCCEP gets to kind of lay that out for how it thinks is best. There's lots of ways to do it.
Thank you so much. Leslie, go ahead.
Yeah, just also kind of not to respond, but just to clarify, I guess, for myself. So the plan will be, because I think part of the reason we're not doing that in June is because there's other stuff in June that is like kind of taking precedent, and we found that in the past when we get such a short turnaround to provide comments, the comments may not be as meaningful to like action. And we may not be able to solicit the amount of feedback from the community that we would like, or the quality of feedback from the community that we would like, and ourselves, because we're just like rushed trying to, and then we to read it and try to digest it, and then we get a meeting with the chief. They come, they present, but it's very like surface level. So my hope is that if we do delay it, so that it's like in July, maybe we miss those precinct meetings, but at the same time, we have the opportunity to still have that meeting with the chief and dive into more questions of substance and things that could really impact the work, because we've had more time with it. And I guess that's my hope and understanding of how that's going to go. And I'm just looking for confirmation.
Thank you, Leslie. Tori?
Sorry, can you say that last part one more time?
From where? Like from
so yes, about the short turnaround time, the kind of pressure to have timelines, et cetera, and then where things will go, you said.
Like, I'm kind of hoping that if we meet about this in July, or if we we're not necessarily putting it off, we're just giving ourselves more time to have a meeting of substance and have somebody from the PCB come and that can really answer those deeper questions that we might have, rather than just like the questions that we might have if we're trying to skim to meet a deadline.
I think that's exactly the objective that the leadership has discussed, and the feedback that PCCEP received last year. Yeah, that's completely in line. Yeah, I mean, essentially just having a productive meeting on it, right? Is the goal. Yeah.
And I guess kind of to Dan's point that he just put in the text, I was also similarly thinking that I mean, I know that the deadlines are set, but I guess it is a shame that we don't have more time to digest this work before those precinct meetings, before things can get to the larger PPV. And I guess, is there an opportunity to make that comment? And I don't know if it's a recommendation or if it's just a comment. I don't know how that can change.
Thanks, Leslie. other comments or questions? Please raise your hand. Sarah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm talking way too much, but I would just say there is a tension with these precinct meetings because as you all realize, if you took a look at it, the annual report covers last year, 2023, which, I mean, they work as fast as they can to get the information compiled and presented and into a draft to get to you in, you know, early May, I guess, this year, and to get out to the community. I mean, when you're talking in July about something that was 6 months ago, there's we have heard at some of these meetings, it's like, we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about what's happening now, you know? So there's a bit of a tension between like having, you know, these later in the summer versus like trying to get last year's news. I mean, you know, they're based on the annual report, but you know, obviously there's just an opportunity for people to talk about whatever's on their mind at that point. So there's that tension of timeliness versus just having it open to people. So that's part of why they try to get them earlier than, I think the deadline, as Dan said, is September 20th.
Thank you, Sarah. So Doria, I see no other hands up. Did you want to do a closing or next steps?
Yeah, just I always like to give it just a minute and make sure no one else has any last lingering thoughts. All right, not hearing anything. Okay. Okay, so I think we put in a wrap-up slide here too. So we can go back one or two. Do we have anything to touch base on here? Anything we need to make sure gets done before the next full committee meeting, folks? Which actually will be June 10th or July 10th, if we don't count the community engagement event. So we got some time.
Well, I was going to follow up with Sarah and the work group with some questions just to get those clarifications. And then I think the work group will meet again. I think we have some time still in the calendar. So that'd be my proposal, just to get some of those legal questions and then kind of fall and then just like look at the code again and see what we want to change. And if just thinking, you know, of the timeline, if there's for the subcommittee chairs, just if there's could be some space on agendas the next couple weeks where we take like 15 minutes maybe to clarify update where we are, that could be a nice way to plug in to get input from the community. Because I was also thinking, I had a question in my head about like, how do we get more community input? So that could be another way of just having an update on the subcommittee agendas about where we've landed and where we're going.
Anybody else? Alrighty. Okay, jumping ahead. Next week is a settlement and policy subcommittee meeting, and that meeting will be about the reformation of the riot response team. And we have some guests joining us to talk about that. I know Chief Day, Assistant Chief Lavelle will be here for that meeting. So that will be a good one to learn more about that issue. And then June 12th is Community Engagement Subcommittee meeting. All right, folks, I think that's all we got. Thanks so much for all of your work tonight. Thank you for new and continuing PCCEP members, all of our community and city attendees for being with us. And the time is 8 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned early.
Awesome.